Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Deep End.
Today, we're going to talk about the differences and similarities of some of the mythological or urban legends or whatever from different countries, most likely focusing on the creatures themselves. So, as you know, there are a lot of creatures all over the world seen by uh, people, and a lot of them have uh, characteristics that are similar with each other. So Czar, me, and AJ, me as in John, are gonna talk about them, and this is gonna be fun because you don't know that at one point the all of these might have some single origin, and these creatures uh, or darkness itself might be just not or might not be just one of your nightmares,
Mm.
but also reality. So let's
It,
start.
it's important to note that what we're going to talk about today are beings that are featured in urban legends, beings wherein whole myths were based around them. And most of these stories have similar versions in each country, regardless of culture or
Mhm.
race. It somehow some of these urban legends or some of these mythological beings also are also present in that culture's history. Now, yeah,
And it's weird because, um, in my point of view, personally, I think the reason why they are, or some of these beings are similar to each other, because at one point, maybe in the distant past, they might actually have existed or something, or there's some um, common ground between these stories that we haven't or we're not actually seeing right now.
Because these beings they're basically being told by our ancestors
Mhm.
over and over through the generations,
Mhm.
and everything is sort of similar.
Mm. So one of them, as I've mentioned before this podcast started, one of them is the centaur from the European um, myths and our very own tikbalang here in the Philippines. So what is a tikbalang? Or first, shall we talk about the
Yeah,
tikbalang first because
okay.
it's closer to home. Okay, so the tikbalang is a half horse, half man.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's the top half that's the horse and the bottom half and the limbs are man.
yes.
So tikbalang does it eat people? Does it or do you know if it eats people or something? I think it does kidnap people.
I think it takes people.
Yeah, it takes people
Yeah.
away. It abducts people, and it's kind of like one of the encantos or enchanted beings here in the Philippines.
Yes.
Mhm.
From the legends that I've encountered or heard from other people, these beings, they're not really the man eating type. They are enamored with humans. They would sometimes uh,
Abduct
fall in
women.
love with human women and would enchant them in some way or use sorcery in order to whisk them away into their world.
Mhm.
It is also known to frighten children. From what I've read. Now I'm not really sure about the origin of the tikbalang, but yes, the description that you gave is the most common description wherein this is a creature with the body of a man and the head of a horse. And in most cases, they are depicted to be taller than usual men,
Mhm.
than the normal man. Sometimes even they even have some sort of a gigantic proportions and compared to humans. That is.
And
Now,
also, interesting to note that their counterparts, the centaurs,
hmm,
are actually the reverse,
Yeah.
in which the body is that of a horse, and the
The
upper
head.
part, the head, is
The upper body of a man.
yes, the upper body of a man. And a lot of legends depict that centaurs are handsome beings. So it totally contradicts with
The,
our tikbalang, which
the
needs
Filipino
yeah,
version.
which needs to abduct women or
Yeah.
when they're enamored, because centaurs are actually don't actually show themselves to humans, and a lot of, like, for example, a girl or a male person sees a centaur of the different sex, they would fall in love with it because of
Yeah.
how uh, beautiful that creature is. So, but what's weird is there's always a uh, horseman. There's always a horseman in legends.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I remember it correctly, but I think Japan also has a horse thing,
Creature.
horse creature, and as well as in the Hindu mythologies, there's always a horse type creature. Mhm.
Yeah, about that one, Hindu. Yes, they do. They do have a horse, a divine avatar, a god, basically.
Which is closer to the Tikbalan's
Yeah, to the
Image,
Tikbalan's image.
Image.
It's the. I'm actually reading its description right now. It's the image of Hayagriva. It's a horse-headed avatar of Vishnu.
so
So
that's
this is-
Vishnu's
Vishnu.
other.
Yeah, this is
avatar.
one of the forms that Vishnu uses whenever he chooses to appear among before humans or before people.
And to those who don't know who Vishnu is he or she is one of the chief gods in the Hindu religion, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
you have three of them. You have Brahma, you have Vishnu, and then you have Shiva.
Shiva, yeah. So that's that. There's always, again, I don't know if the mythology or the Hindu religion or depiction of the horseman is older than the legends, but there's always a horseman. That's interesting to know because
And this one's in religion.
yeah, this
Yeah.
this one is in religion, and
Yeah.
and what's interesting to know is why a horse and why do they always mash it up with a man?
I think when AJ mentioned that this other depiction is from Hinduism, religion. You know how the Philippines was actually invaded by the Spaniards, right?
Mhm.
And how they converted all of most of our ancestors into Christianity. Now there is a talk of or a study of this wherein I believe I'm not sure if this is speculation or not, but they sort of demonized our
Depicted,
local
mhm.
deities. So it is very possible that the Tikbalang was a local deity back in the early days when our ancestors were you know when the Philippines was still pristine. It wasn't under the rule of the Spaniards. A lot of our cultural heritage was actually lost during that time because they had to convert us into their religion. So most of the things that we knew to be divine were demonized in order for them to convert the Filipinos. So
Makes sense.
yeah, it is most likely a guardian deity, most likely, because in the stories that I found before, predating the Spanish occupation, we didn't really have monsters.
Mhm.
It's more of we had sort of deities, jealous deities, stuff like that. You
Yeah.
know, the usual legends and shit. But no man-eating creatures of the night or child kidnappers or shit like that. But yeah, it's most likely just like Hayagriva, Vishnu's avatar. This is most likely something that we deemed good back in the day.
So that speaking of the religions demonizing like avatars before. Another one who's present in almost all forms of religion, and what do you call this? Is a very known avatar is the goat man.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wait, when you say present in religion, you mean to say present in a lot of pagan religions except for Christianity?
No, it actually Christianity actually depicts the demon as a goat, a horned
Oh.
goat man,
Oh,
which
we're gonna go Da Vinci Code on this shit.
actually the goat man or the man with the goat who's always depicted with evil with Satan
Yeah,
is a pagan god called Baphomet.
yeah.
And Baphomet is contrary to his religious figure as evil, is a very giving god, and is also the god of harvest.
Yeah.
That's why he has a sickle, because it's harvest time.
He's for harvesting.
And another of legend about it is his horn is a cornucopia. It's not the cornucopia in Greek legends, but it actually also gives the horn of plenty, where there's an abundance of food and you'll never get hungry. So that's interesting to note as well, because a lot of countries have their own versions of goatmen. There are the satyrs,
On Greek.
right? And the pan, the little satyrs are basically human goat hybrids, and the pans, the little beings, are more human in
Their upper part of their
upper
bodies.
part of their bodies than goat. So there's that, and again, most of these mythological beings are from Europe and the old European civilizations and Middle Asia. That there's always the goat man, and there's always a Baphomet in them.
It's always an amalgamation of an animal,
Mhm.
usually domestic animal,
Yeah, that was weird. Right?
and
Horse,
human.
goats. What's
and
next?
even cows, I believe.
And
There
the
are
cats.
oh, cats. There you,
You know,
go.
there's Queen Nefertiti. eh,
Today,
Nefertiti.
today.
She's very fond of cats because there's a cat goddess called Bastet.
Bastet, yeah.
Yeah, there's Bastet, and this is interesting because there's a cat goddess before, and one of the familiars in Egypt, one of the very, very, very famous familiars is a cat, and by that familiars of witches. So let's talk about witches. There's a lot of witches. Seriously, there's a lot of versions of witches all over the world. There's here in the Philippines, we have the Mangkukulam,
Yeah.
we have the Mambabarang, which are two different use two different types of sorceries. We'll not get too depth into them for the fear of our lives.
No, let's do this.
Okay, let's do this. So the Mangkukulams often use curses
Yeah.
that involves hair or something from the victim. But the Mambabarang is uses more malicious types of curses, which involves animals.
Yeah.
Again, animals. And again, as I've said, it's more malicious, and their curses have more hate in them. It's most likely for revenge.
More vengeful
More
versions than
vengeful.
the Mangkukulam.
Yes, exactly. And they have what do you call this? Here also in the Philippines we have the counterparts, the Albularios, and these are more in tune with white magic.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the healers, right?
They're the healers, yeah. And in European religions, you have of course the black magic witches and the white magic witches and the shamans. The shamans, the druids, that's their versions of witches, and wizards, warlocks. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about Barang for a moment here. Okay, so
You really love this.
no, not
Barangs.
loves. More like it's skeptic time. Okay, so all my life I've been surrounded by stories of witchcraft here in the Philippines, local. Not stories of the most common witch. I hear a lot of stories about the barang, and to be honest, it's a really it's a scary thing.
It's a scary curse.
It's a scary thing for it to happen to anyone because when you get baranged,
Barang.
For lack of a better term.
yeah, for lack of a very better term, but basically it's a type of curse that uses animals as the delivery system. So in what I've heard, the witch would sometimes employ a familiar. It could be a cat, it could be a bat, it could be rats, whatever. That's the delivery. So once the familiar delivers the curse will live inside the victim. Now, when I say live, it's because the curse. Well, basically, what the witch will do here is the witch will implant creatures inside the victim to throw them into agony. And among the stories that I've heard, there are sometimes various insects will crawl out of the victim's various orifices. Sometimes the victim would just writhe in agony as if things were crawling inside them. And to be honest, I have not seen this happen, but I've heard a lot of stories, and I've even heard a story of this one time when one woman was successful in defending herself from the familiar. In this case, it was a bat, and she sort of saw a bat sort of lingering in her house.
Inside her house?
Yes, she struck the bat with, I think, the broom or something, with the stick part of the broom. And the bat fell, of course. And from the body of the bat, a lot of insects came out, like hundreds. From
Carrier has arrived.
yeah, from her story. From her story, hundreds of insects came out. Now, I think there are similar stories like this, especially in, I don't know, in some of the other underdeveloped countries like Africa.
Not only in Africa, but there are other stories in very developed countries like Japan. In Japan, they use animals as curse delivery systems as well. There's this, I forgot the term again, where they, in a pot, they put hundreds of dangerous insects in there and leave it and bury it for for some days. And after a few days, they would open it and only one insect will emerge out of it. And that insect carries the rage and the vengeance of all the killed insects, and they would use that to enact their vengeance or whatever, their curse, and let that insect bite or invade the target or the victim.
It's like that insect absorbed all the rabies and diseases of the other animals.
Possibly, that's one of the reasons why
making
it
it
can kill.
very effective.
Now, since we're talking about beings here, the beings that we're talking about right now, which are witches, they belong to a special category because unlike some of the other beings like the centaur, tikbalang, all of that,
The witches are humans.
stuff. These are people, and some people even claim on national TV that they are witches, that they are capable of doing this and that. Unlike other beings, we just have stories. We don't really have any proof of their existence. Only stories passed on from I don't know, from old people.
Stories.
And stuff.
Old people. Seriously, old people? Anyway.
Oh, but before we end this end the topic about witches, let me talk about the aswang first. Now,
Which are basically transforming witches.
yes, these are super high level witches. Like a witch is just level 20. It's just level 20 crap. You could probably defeat them with physical power, whatever. But an aswang is like a level 70 bitch, you know. Now, I thought when I was younger, I thought the term aswang was like sort of a blanket term wherein it encompasses all of the mythological, harmful mythological beings that we have here in the Philippines. But recently, I learned that the aswang is actually a separate entity. It's basically a being that possesses vampiric and ghoulish characteristics and is capable of shape-shifting as well. Now,
Basically, aswangs are the Professor McGonagalls of Harry Potter world.
But they're evil. Professor
they're
McGonagall is
they are evil, super evil. Now, there was a movie recently about this, and it was a very tasteful movie actually. I recommend people...
Is that the aswang?
Yes, this is Eric Matis
Eric
Aswang,
Matis.
and it's a good movie actually. It's a good explanation of that. But I think this is another one of those classic cases where something that we respect was demonized in order for us to convert into Christianity.
Funny thing that you said that because in the pagan old pagan ways, they actually revere animals that can transform into humans and vice versa.
Yeah.
The shamans, the druids, which are nature-loving, what are they beings? Yeah, let's just call them beings. One of their quote-unquote sacred arts are shape-shifting.
Yeah.
And that's
it allows them to commune with nature
in a
better,
deeper level.
In a deeper level.
So maybe that's one aspect that also was brought here in the Philippines in the form of the aswangs.
Yeah, because in some of the studies, they claim that the aswang was actually the village wise woman, and this wise woman, of course, holds sway over a village, and the
She's
people
powerful
respect
as
her.
fuck. Yeah.
Yeah, powerful because she helps the village. She gives villagers advice, provides medicine, and of course, all of this, most of the time, is attributed to powers, supernatural prowess, being one with nature, and all that stuff. And of course, now if you're during the Spanish occupation, of course, they'd have to wrestle the influence from these people and demonize them. The fastest way to remove these people from power is to
Make it
show
that they're evil.
Yeah, show them up as evil, and I think that's what happened here. Because now the depiction of the aswang is this vampiric, ghoulish creature that can shapeshift at will and would eat human flesh. These are like the highest level bastards in our mythology, even in our urban myths. These are the high level guys. You don't want to be messing with an aswang because there's no way for you to win. To be honest, you can only prevent your house from being invaded by one. There are precautions, such as using salt and all that shit.
Garlic,
all of the classic, supernatural creature repellent. But you can fighting this thing
is impossible.
It's almost nearly impossible unless you are learned in the ways of the
the dark arts.
The dark arts.
Yeah, and unless you have like a level 80 sorcerer, level 20, level 50 knight tank, a healer.
Unless you're
dual wielding.
Unless you studied a whole semester of defense against the dark arts.
Yeah. Some dadas. Well, anyway, So this is since I want to connect all of our conversations into one another.
Talk about vampires.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
There you go.
So we're talking about things that creep in the night
Yeah.
and are or prey on the humans.
Hmm.
So since aswangs prey on the human flesh, let's go to their western cousins, which are more classy. So there's vampires.
They were classy before that movie went out.
No, they were.
No
they're,
hate.
they're still classy in the movie.
They're still
but-
classy for my heart.
Yeah. So vampires. What's a
Vampires.
vampire? They are creatures that, again, can transform at will.
Yes.
They have astounding strength,
Mm-hmm.
and they are basically supernatural creatures that can almost do anything impossible. They can transform into mist. They don't have reflections. That's one of the ways you can detect a vampire.
Yes.
They, according to superstition, they hate garlic.
Mhm.
They hate salt, and yeah,
They're also capable of dominating your will.
dominating your will. And there's this really funny way to counter a vampire, which is to throw rice when you're being chased by a vampire. You know why? Because vampires are really clean beings. They're so classy as fuck that if you throw rice, they get mad and just pick it up one by one. Seriously,
That's
there's
fucking.
that's weird,
They're
right?
the
Yeah.
OC
That's weird as shit.
monsters.
And they're so classy that if you don't invite them into your house, they won't go in. They
Oh.
can't go in.
Also, they drink blood. That's like the
And they
one-
drink blood.
That's their most common trait.
Mhm. And actually, the blood drinking is from, there are really no blood drinking things before a certain event happened. There were no vampires drinking blood thing. It's it originated from the first vampire, which was Count Dracula, which was, his name was Vladimir von Dracul, which was included in or made by Bram Stoker.
Yeah.
He's basically Vlad the Impaler, a very rambunctious conqueror that after whenever he conquered something, those that were killed, he would put their heads in a stake and show it to the masses.
Also, Emperor Vlad, his strategy is mainly using fear.
It's scare
Against-
tactics.
Yeah, what he was doing was he was trying to invade countries.
Mm.
So what he would do was he would take all his enemies and impale them with their heads sometimes, and sometimes
Their whole bodies
their whole bodies while they were still alive.
alive. Yeah.
And then he would eat. He would set a table and just
eat their
his-
brains.
Not really, but just eat dinner or whatever
Yeah.
to show people that I can do this and I
Even
will
if-
defeat the fuck out of you.
And the thing is, he is a fan of eating brains and drinking
Yeah.
blood because he believes that whenever you eat the brains of your enemies, you'd get their knowledge.
That's a rumor.
That's a rumor.
That's a rumor that started because he keeps eating food in front of these people who are impaled. Because back in medieval times, impaling is one of the
most humiliating way.
one of the most gruesome capital punishments out there. Basically, in some cases they would impale just body parts like the head,
Yeah.
but in most cases, like in Vlad's case, impalement starts from the anus
Mhm.
upwards,
Yeah.
and the stake would actually pierce through and would go outside of the mouth.
The mouth.
So basically, what Vlad was doing,
Was the early version of human centipede.
yeah, he was impaling these people and just planting them in his lands while he eat. And you know how people embellish these stories wherein he would, of course, he would have to eat and to show people that, hey, I can do this, I'm this powerful. But of course people would embellish that and say, look at him, he drinks the blood of his enemies, he feasts upon their flesh and brains. You know how people would embellish that, because it's not something you'd see normally. You wouldn't. Normal people wouldn't have the stomach to do this shit. You know.
But he was so goddamn metal.
Yeah, that's metal as fuck.
Ahead of time.
Well, also, what's funny is Bram Stoker's Dracula was or Vlad, the basis for Bram Stoker's Dracula was the basis of modern vampires. There are other things that go bump in the night that are related to vampires, or the interesting theories is that the vampires are another race of humans, which is, we are Homo erectus, they're just Homo vampirus. Yeah, they're Homo vampirus, and they're actually the top of the food chain, because we eat basically anything below us, and they eat
anything
us.
below them.
Yes, which including humans. Yeah. They don't actually eat humans only. They also eat other food, but they can eat and will eat humans if they have to. So that's another interesting theory. And speaking of which, since we're at the vampire category, which eats or which drinks the blood of their victims, let's go into their more feral cousins. Again, originating from Europe. For some reason, Europe and Japan here is the best place to be when you're talking about creatures. And there's the werewolves. The werewolves. And
feral friends.
Yeah, they're feral friends who are basically creatures. If vampires are bats, I'm talking Irish, vampires. If vampires are bats, then werewolves are, well, wolves. So what are werewolves? They are creatures that transform, they're humanoids, human beings that transform into a half human, half wolf hybrid every time there's a full moon. So they eat humans and other stuff as well. Not only humans, but horses. Maybe they eat tikbalans, or I don't give a fuck if they do.
They go to the Philippines for a tour and they eat all the tikbalans.
Yeah.
That's why you can't see them anymore. They're extinct.
Yeah. So these werewolves, again, a common thing for mythological beings is that they are able to fucking shapeshift into animal hybrids. And these werewolves are just too goddamn awesome. I don't know.
Do you like werewolves more than vampires?
I love werewolves more than
Oh,
vampires.
you want a fun fact?
What?
In psychology, there's a condition where, you know how the term lycanthropy is connected to werewolves? That term is used when a patient thinks he or she can transform into a
wolf.
Not necessarily a wolf, but a creature, like a cat.
Also, any
wolf
form
cat.
of animagus
Yeah.
is lycanthropism.
Yes, that's correct.
Ah, okay. So maybe a lot of people back then suffer from lycanthropism, and they would just, oh my god, I need to drink blood. Oh my god, I need to eat flesh.
Oh my god, I need to eat balang.
I think this thing still exists because we still have our cannibals.
Yeah.
We still have people who are afflicted with this compulsion to eat human flesh. And you can attribute the legends to that because these things exist. In some parts of the world, or back in the ancient days, cannibalism was a part of life. Some tribes who did not learn how to grow crops, who only know how to hunt, would sometimes eat other tribes.
And I think that's the reason why they got bastardized, because when civilization started, eating other humans was like taboo.
Yeah, it is taboo, and it's like an act that is too low for you.
For humanity.
So that's why they relate them to animals and stuff. So yeah, there are a lot of other beings that we should talk about. Like there's the dwarves, there's the pixies. What else? Fairies. Here in the Philippines. Yeah.
Do we have a beast here in the Philippines?
Yeah, basically the tikbalang is a beast.
Oh yeah, the tikbalang is there were legends about men transforming into the tikbalang.
And also we have giants. We have the kapre here in the Philippines.
Oh Christ, yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of records of giants, and God, how many countries there are. And in Japan, there's the Odokuro. Are you familiar with the Odokuro?
Is this the
giant
skeleton?
Yeah.
I think this is the. It's an amalgamation of spirits, basically of people who died of starvation.
So that's there again. It's a giant creature. There's also creatures from the water.
Oh,
we have mermaids, of course.
Oh yeah, the mermaid is actually something that persists in a lot of legends.
A lot of legends, and the modern scientists attribute them to the dugong.
Yeah, most people,
the manatee.
Most experts who studied how sailors described mermaids back in the day. They sort of speculated that these people or these sailors may have been witnessing manatees instead of mermaids. But what about the part where they sing?
And what about the part that they look like gorgeous as fuck?
Yeah.
Manatees, even though they're cute, they're not gorgeous as fuck. And they're not women showing boobs.
They're not as hot as Ariel.
Yes. Exactly. And these creatures are very interesting to talk about. Why? Because they merge cultures together.
Yeah.
These are anchors of cultures, different types of living, different lifestyles from different other countries, but they have the same roots.
Mermaids. For mermaids, for example, we have the kappa from Japan. This is
mer people. That's not mer people.
Well, you just mentioned mermaid because mermaid is basically that merfolk who have the feminine form. But there are other merfolk like say the Undine and
the Shokai here in the Philippines.
Yes.
Then there's the kappa in Japan.
The kappa in Japan. The kappa is like it's fucking funny as fuck.
Yeah, it's fucking funny as fuck. They love cucumbers for some reason.
They fucking love cucumbers, and they would actually steal your essence from your anus.
Yeah, for some reason they do that. And their weakness is they have a glass bowl of water in their heads.
Yeah,
and if you break them, they just disintegrate.
Yeah, and basically they have this indent at the top of their heads, and it's filled with water. So if a kappa actually stands up, that's why when a kappa gets out of the water, it stands upright, like it's really straight. Because if it actually loses some of the water, it won't be able to balance itself anymore. It would actually fall over and die.
That's the most faultiest nature evolution.
Yeah, and also the kappa is weird because it's like a platypus, only humanoid, but they look like human. They have duck bills. And they have turtle shells.
Yeah, they do.
It's the worst form of evolution ever.
That's the most popular depiction of them. However, there are depictions of them as turtle demons.
Turtle demons.
Just possessing only the characteristics of turtles and humans. So there's that. Now,
and again, they love fishing for some reason. They love fishing, but they don't eat fish. They eat cucumbers and human butt soles.
That's the way to actually get away from them is to throw a bunch of cucumbers at them.
That's why a lot of fishermen back then have cucumbers with them, just in case they encounter kappa in the lakes. Oh, and also kappas only thrive in fresh water. They don't like salt water for some reason. And again, speaking of things in this ocean, let's make it faster because we're running out of time, and I'd like to have another episode of this in the future, which will talk about the things I said earlier. In the ocean, there's always the legend about the Kraken.
Oh yeah.
And in mythologies, Greek mythologies, there's Scylla and Charybdis. Scylla is this weird fucking creature that has tentacles all over. It's like an old one of H.P. Lovecraft. While Charybdis is a giant whirlpool. So there's that. And again, attributed to the sailors, or rather, same with the sailors, giant kraken, which there's a giant fucking squid that has intelligence, who wrecks ships. And I don't know if they eat the people. They just wreck ships. They're just a hazard to sailors.
They eat the seamen.
In Norse mythology, I think the kraken is a sign of the end times.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, once a kraken appears, there's a lot of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
Once a kraken appears, it's a sign that Ragnarok has begun.
Don't say Ragnarok. That's not Greek.
No, that's not Greek. That's Norse.
Is it Norse? The kraken is Norse? It's Greek.
No, it's Norse.
It's Norse?
It is Norse. It's just that the fucking movie, for some reason,
said release the kraken.
The Ragnarok term is Norse.
But
it's Norse
even kraken, that's what confused me so much when they released that Clash of the Titans movie. The moment he said,
"Hi, this is the movie and podcast."
The moment he said release, the moment he said release the kraken, I was like, how?
Yeah.
Inter mythology happening.
How?
It's an interracial stuff.
How? Why? Why are you saying kraken?
Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
is he renting the kraken? What's happening?
Because
maybe he's friends with the Jotunheim people.
Jotunheim.
They bastardized that story of Andromeda being eaten by the sea creature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because in the story they didn't really call it a kraken; it's just a sea monster.
It's a sea monster,
And
more akin to Scylla.
yeah, Perseus had to use Medusa or the Gorgon's head
that
in
too.
order to petrify it.
Mm-hmm. The Gorgon is another creature famous everywhere.
Really?
Mm-hmm. There's always a girl with a snake hair. She's present in Hindu mythology, and we have our own version of it. And Darna keeps fucking with her, right?
But what is it?
Valentina.
Valentina.
Mm-hmm. We have our own
But
version.
that's a pop culture version here in the Philippines.
But it's an old reference as well. Again, it's a creature from other races taken here in the Philippines. We also have our own version of the Naga. Are you familiar with Naga?
Oh man, don't tell me you're
The
gonna say
Lamia?
Zuma. I'm gonna fucking hang myself right now.
that's basically a Naga person. Zuma is a Naga person.
Yes, and Zuma is a pop culture representation of the Naga, which is basically the serpent people. Yes.
And for serpent people, again, we have the Gorgons, we have the Lamias, which are really gorgeous people with snake lower halves, and the Nagas, which are the I think they're the apex of the serpent people, which are perfect amalgamation of a serpent and a human. So now we're running out of time. We really would like to expound on this. So please comment down below if you have any creatures that you would want us to talk about. If you want a specific analyzation of a creature or a certain mythology that's resounding all over the world, whether it's Hindu, it's from Europe, Western. I don't know if America has like creatures for themselves.
I think the Native Americans do.
Oh yeah, they have.
You have the Wendigo.
Oh, and the Wendigo is actually one of the forms of the Yeti, which is Bigfoot.
Yeah, it is related. They relate the Wendigo to that, but it's also there are also legends of the Wendigo being a spirit that has a voracious appetite for human flesh.
That's Until Dawn shit right there.
Yeah. Also, there's this movie by Guy Pearce.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what the title was, but it's a movie set during the colonization period of America, wherein they were a bunch of soldiers, right, from Britain, of course, sent to colonize America.
The Americas.
Yes, and unfortunately, they were hot on the trail of this criminal because this criminal was eating people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was eating people. He was stronger than normal. And what happens is Guy Pearce and his buddy, they fall into a pit, and his buddy dies, and he breaks his leg. And then the criminal, he was like staring at Guy Pearce, saying, "You know what you need to do to survive? You need to eat him." Something like that. And of course, Guy Pearce doesn't want to do it. But hunger changes people. It will change you. I'm not kidding. It will change you. Like, say for example, I lock you in a room with a dog or a pig, whatever creature or another person. Just lock them inside a room long enough, and if they don't kill themselves, they would try to kill each other. People will eat people to survive. That's how strong hunger is. You might laugh at it right now. You think it's a trivial thing because all of us eat 3 meals a day. But to be honest, try going a whole week without food. It will change you.
You'd probably transform.
Yeah, basically this is all building up to that legend of the Wendigo. Basically, people who eat other people to gain their essence and become more powerful. It's an old Native American legend because they have man eaters there. They had tribes who ate others. Yes.
So yeah. If you want us to talk about more about the Wendigos and stuff and other supernatural beings, do comment down below.
And demons.
And demons. We still haven't tackled demons. I was waiting for that, but we're out of time. We're sorry, guys. So again, if you really like this episode, punch that like button and remember to subscribe to our channel. We feature the deep end every other week, and we'd love to talk about all these strange, mysterious beings. And if you want to know more and would want updates on our future content, do click on that bell button.
That's right, so that you'd get notified of our new videos.
And also, the social channels.
Yeah.
We have social channels on the description. I was waiting for AJ to follow.
Oh, sorry. We have Facebook. Right now we have Facebook, right?
And Facebook and Twitter.
The Twitter.
Yeah.
So we're going to include the links to our socials down below. If you want, you can follow us there. We have updates that doesn't appear on YouTube and would just appear on Facebook and Twitter. So that's that. And remember, it's not every day that you talk about these things. And it's not every day that you talk about these things with another being. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks for listening.